Then you might fix the audio stuff. That's all on you, buddy. Hey, look, we're live.
So let's go over here. That is not Slack. So here's Slack. Let's go over here. Let's go to the tweeters. Compose new tweets.
That is not. Oh, that's this one. All right, so 416. Bloop.
All right. I guess we'll wait and see if you can't hear me again. I don't know why. I'm talking to people.
That's funny. I don't know why you talk to people either. Okay, so that is all good.
How about now? Can you hear me? I mean, it only says that.
Can y'all hear Shane? Shane.
Okay, now I hit apply again.
He applied again. Can you hear him now?
Coughing on you people, so. No, there's no way it's quiet. I don't even start that noise. I'm not playing that game this week.
He refuses to acknowledge that it's quiet. I don't care what you guys say.
It literally says that I am using the mic that I say that I'm using. Let's go back over to the sound. I think this was the stupid fix last week.
So many stupid fixes.
Input is that, wait. Can I turn this down?
Oh.
I gotta go on the other sound things. Alright, going over here to the microphones. Yep, it shows nothing coming out, barely. That's fantastic.
Perhaps you're whispering.
Perhaps. Property. Levels. Turn this thing all the way. I mean, why would it have turned itself back down? Anyone know? Alright, how about now?
So you got louder to me, which I understand is different than what they're hearing.
Yeah.
But
I sound the same to myself as I speak.
Still all sexy and suave.
Oh, yeah. Alright. Waiting to see. Several people are typing. A bit better. I mean, it's at 100 now.
Shane, you and your mic need to give 110%.
There we go. Shane is better now. See, Jeff said it. I'm going to quote that on the internet. Still not as loud as Todd. Well, Todd is way too loud, but we can turn Todd down.
No, don't do that.
Alright, I just turned Todd down, in theory.
What a waste of valuable bits. Don't do that.
I wish we could get something more than tin cans and strings. You people would pay for this podcast, maybe.
I think tin cans and a string would be an upgrade.
This show just does not.
I think, I think if we got tin cans, I think you guys wouldn't know what to do with yourselves. You're like, wow, this thing is great.
I'm talking through. Todd, your lighting's off too.
Oh.
How the hell do I sound muffled? The microphone right to the front of my face. I might not be willing to do the show today. I might just quit.
you can't quit. Let me. I can't even see myself. Where? Skype.
All right, so I turned Todd way down. I told you you were loud, so I guess that kind of. I mean, I'm not. Don't you touch a thing, but.
No, well, I'm just saying, Shane, people have been telling me I'm too loud my entire life. Don't think that now, at 44, you telling me is going to make any difference in how I received that news.
Okay, so I turned Todd. I mean, Todd is down to like 30% on my machine. I am at 100% on my machine.
And I just want the record to note that me at 30% is still better than you.
Yeah, I'll be back.
So I know, so I'm a little dark on that side, which is weird because all those lights are, I think it's because that is too bright. Let me close that window a little bit. I'll be right back. That will help a little bit. It's like 10 degrees here, but the sun is very bright. It's very misleading. All right. Here we go. There we go. All right. Maybe I'll just start the show without Shane. He won't care. I was going to put some more notes in. You guys like notes. I like notes. 2070. I wish, man. Sounds like a heat wave. Okay, there we go. All right. Everybody tell Shane how good looking he is now when he comes back. He's had enough already. Coming back for more. We love you, Shane. We can't hear you, Shane.
On the bright side, I did get a pamphlet on what is the key to happy family life.
Oh, did you ask if they had any pamphlets on the keys to better podcasting?
No, I should have. I mean, she was real nice. I might have asked her if she wanted to come down here and host the show. You could have interviewed her.
She couldn't do a worse job than either of the two of us, that's for sure. I think.
No, I haven't. How am I loud now?
I can only assume that Brett's screwing with you. And I wholly, completely support that. Don't get me wrong. That's funny. I stepped away while you were gone too. None of us were there.
So wait, so my two are levels not close anymore? Is this what you people are telling me? No, it's now normal right now. All right.
So that's interesting that you fiddled with it. It wasn't good. You muted it. How did you mute it? On your...
Yep. The stupid little button.
Huh. Interesting. And then all you did was unmute it.
Cussed at it for a minute while it was muted, so you didn't hear any of the cursing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so dumb as it is, we will just have to add that to our bag of tricks for next week. All right, we ready to go? No, I'm quiet. Stacy would like more Todd, please. If that's could we ratchet up the Todd a little bit?
Well, more than just your fangirl Stacy, you'll have to ask for it.
Oh. Well, she is my favorite.
Well, now Brett wants to boost you by 20%.
The crowd has spoken.
So you're currently at 30%, so I need to move you to 36%, right? I mean, I want to give Brett exactly what he's asking for.
But maybe he means from 30 to 50. Does he mean 20% of the current volume or 20%? Brett, we need more clarity on this.
You see what I did there.
Yep. And Shane has a cookie thing he would like you to solve to verify how credible your percentages are.
Right now, Todd's at 34.5%. Okay, that's looks like 41. It's not numbers. It's just this little. All right, 43. I'll give you 43% for Todd. Todd, speak to them at 43%.
This is me at 43%.
Mark, I like it. I won't repeat it, but I like it.
Yeah. So I, when we were writing one of our books, I can't remember if it was a 2010 or 2013 book. It was on a weekend, Jill had gone off, she was gone, and I was writing and trying to do everything but right. Like the dishes were clean, the house had been vacuumed, the windows were washed, and I had run out of things to procrastinate on, so I was writing this horrible book that you and I were writing. And the doorbell rings, and it was some guy who was running for something, some local guy. And so, number one, I hate it when people bother me at home for that kind of stuff. So, but then number two, I just didn't want to go back and write the book. So I probably argued with that dude, and not argued, but discuss stuff with him. And Jill comes home through a different door. She walks over, she sees him, she sees me, she walks up, looks at him, and says, "I'm so very sorry." And turns around and walks off.
I love your wife.
Oh.
I can only imagine he was probably like, the statute for corn height should be 6 feet. Todd's like, no, it should be 6.5. Right? I mean, that was probably the intensity of the conversation.
No. So I think I had some legit points. So at the time, there were two factions inside of Ames. There was a faction that wanted to
the Crips and the Bloods.
Yes, it was very similar in intensity. Yes. So a group wanted to build a new pool, or aquatic center now we call them, and that was going to require a bunch of tax dollars. And there was a group that wanted to put a new shopping mall out on the interstate on the outside of town. It just happened that the group that was for the pool was mostly against the mall, and the group that was for the mall was mostly against the pool.
Okay.
And so this guy was pro-pool, anti-mall. I was on the other side of that particular discussion. So he's like, hey, we need this pool because, surrounding communities have them. And it's a good thing to bring people to Ames. It's a good thing for the community, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't disagree with any of that. But everything you just said about the pool, I can say about the mall. He's like, no, but it's different. And I'm like, no, it's good for the community. It brings people to town. It's one of the things when people are looking at Ames, they look for. He's like, no, this is completely different. I'm like, no, it's exactly the same thing. And that was...
It sounds like an episode of Parks and Rec. If Ron Swanson had just been there to be like, no, you should give back the government tax dollars.
So just to let you know, I was pro shopping mall and anti-pool. And here we are, 10 or 12 years later, we have the pool and no shopping mall. So you can tell you don't want to listen to anything that I've.
Yeah, we should go live. This is this is terribleness that our audience has come to expect from us.
Yep. All right. Okay, so we're 12 and a half in.
Did you fix the YouTube stream so it says the right episode or whatever?
Yep. I did that shortly after you screwed it up the first time. Hello and welcome to Todd and Shane's Cloudy Podcast number, let me look at my notes, 416, recorded live January 2nd, 2019. The very first podcast of the new year. And here we are, like the second day of the new year. I'm not drunk. I'm not hungover. We are hitting it early. I'm proud of us.
Yep. And I would just like to point out that you did not ask if I was ready. You just started the intro without saying, "Are you ready?" And so now I'm going to be totally off the entire show. And really, all I think it's going to come down to is that the requested range is not satisfiable.
There are many things about you that are not satisfiable. But yes, that is this week's HTTP code 416, range not satisfiable. And the reason I didn't ask if you were ready was because regardless of your answer, and regardless of how correct your answer was, you were not going to be ready. I mean, just no matter how ready you thought you were, you're still going to, your sound was going to be off. The people will be stopping by trying to sell you stuff. It doesn't matter, so...
Uh-oh, folks. We've got the verbose Todd, right? Normally he would have just said because I don't care, but he gave us like the 5-minute explanation. You might as well just go ahead for the 5-part miniseries. It's going to be this show. Todd will be talking. If his blog comes up, just go to the next show. Go listen to Freakonomics or whatever else you listen to.
Hopefully your podcast option has that whole skip 30 seconds thing. You may want to make liberal use of that today. That is true. So we're here. I don't have much on the way of production to talk about. I cranked out 2 podcasts last week in the matter of about a morning. So that was pretty crazy, but we're all caught up. 416. So a couple cool things. First one of 2019. The other thing is we're starting the year of the 10th year of this podcast. So this thing first came out March of 2009. So we're leading up to the 10th anniversary.
Man, this podcast is older than my children.
Yeah, older than all but one of mine, yeah.
Well, that's the whole reason you started it, was to get out of baby duty, so it makes sense.
Well, certainly when they're young, I would do just about anything to get out of that. So yeah, we're doing it. And I think the important thing is we went live a little late this morning, and that's because we were having technical difficulties. And that is one thing that has been consistent with this podcast. Its entire near decade run now is we have never figured out how the hell to do a podcast.
I mean, and it's just amazing, right? I mean, and I kind of feel like it's almost like bad karma, right, or juju, or whatever we call that stuff. But one of the things that always amazes me is every time that we go and speak. You and I have spoken at events all over the planet. Every single time those guys have to hook up the mic, it's like it's their first time, right? We make so much fun of them. Like, come on, guy, you plug the wire in here, you put the microphone on me, you touch me funny, I giggle, and then I do my presentation.
Yeah.
But
and on that same note, you and I have done that 100 times, and within the last 2 months, I've hooked a laptop up to a projector, and it's not worked. As a matter of fact, I've hooked a laptop up to a projector that I hooked it up to the day before, and it did work, and it didn't work.
Yeah. So that's just what it boils down to, right? Is I pick on those guys, but then so today's show, we troubleshot for 10 minutes. I cursed a lot.
You did.
And we got it to a marginal. I gave up. Someone knocked on my door, so I hit mute. I went upstairs and dealt with the people knocking on my door. I come back down. I unmute it, and everything was back. It was perfect. So the process of muting and unmuting was today's fix for the audio for the podcast.
Yep. So we'll have to remember that for next week. But yeah, so very exciting. New year, 2019. Insert joke about still writing 2018 on all my checks, and then the next joke, what is a check? But yeah, let's. Off on a tangent here. Had to have our furnace fixed last week, and the furnace guys have like a tablet where they fill all the stuff out, and it will take credit cards. And we have them come and do the thing, and they've had this for a year or so, and they used to have the square reader for it. So I would pay them with a credit card, they would scan the square reader. Technology's great. Then they quit carrying the square reader. So then the first time I paid with the credit card, I expected him to pull the square reader out, but he didn't. He typed it in by hand. I'm like, oh, that's too bad. So this time I paid the guy with the check because I didn't want to have to make him type in all the stuff. I thought I was being considerate. Thought he made fun of me for paying with the check. Screw you, buddy.
Yeah, that's I'm wondering if the Square fees got out of hand. Is that why they stopped using the...
No, they're still, when they type it in, they're still using the Square app, but it had something to do with an update to Square or an update to their phones. Because I told the guy, I'm like, well, I could have paid you the credit card, but I didn't want you to have to type the thing in like you did last time. And he's like, nah, it's no big deal. And so then I asked him about it. It had something to do with the reader wasn't working well, and so they just type it in, and
Well, on the opposite end of the spectrum, my heating and air conditioning guy, he still shows up with the carbon copy paper. Still leaves me a physical comment card, right there. It's right there. Still shows up with a physical comment card, and I'm like, yeah, there's this thing called technology, and so he's like, yeah, the owner doesn't believe in technology, just won't have it. This idea that we would do anything other than write on this carbon piece of paper like they did in the Stone Age is unacceptable.
And our guy, they send me a text before the guy shows up, and the text has the guy's picture and his name, so I know who it is. So when they ring the doorbell, I mean, yeah, that's pretty slick stuff.
And it just makes sense, right? And I look at like the one, it's like our guy, right? There's like 10 of them or so. I'm like, man, I could make you guys a power app in like, just a handful of hours and change how you do this completely, cut down on the paperwork, just blow your mind. And the guy's like, carbon copies. Okay.
No, yep. Well, now that we've talked about what grinds our gears,
I'm sure that'll come up with 7 more times. Lori can't hear us, but that's she's at the airport.
So now's a good time to say things about Lori, and either good things that would embarrass her or bad things that would, however.
Yeah.
But, so one of the things that that I had go on last week was I write a lot of PowerShell that I use for all manner of things, and hopefully I have another blog post about another cool thing that I've been doing with PowerShell. But one of the things I do is I produce all the podcast stuff with PowerShell. And one of the things that's been happening for quite a while is I have a PowerShell script that after I've edited everything and all the video's been rendered out, I have a PowerShell function that renames the video file to something that easily goes across the web, and then uploads it to my website, which is rocking SharePoint 2010 now.
I heard the internet got upset about that this week.
It came up. But one thing that happens is that video file is large enough that OneDrive locks it, and then because I keep this all in OneDrive, and then when my PowerShell script tries to upload it, even though it's not being changed by OneDrive, my PowerShell script fails out because it can't lock the file well enough to upload it. So I thought, there's got to be a way to do this, and there's no way that I can find to pause the OneDrive sync with PowerShell long enough, pause OneDrive, upload file, unpause OneDrive. So I went out to Twitter and asked if there was a way to do it, and there was many helpful and non-helpful suggestions on how to do that. But then somebody, and I forget who, suggested I should just make a user voice for it. I'm like, that's not a bad idea. So my request to all of you out there is, if you think that is a good suggestion, having a PowerShell commandlet that will pause and unpause OneDrive syncing, you should go out to OneDrive.uservoice.com, search for PowerShell, or use the link in the show notes, and vote that up, and maybe the OneDrive team will add it for me.
You didn't just cheat and just email Steven directly and be like, hey, do this, like I said?
I did not. So I don't know that Steven Rose, he's got too much swagger. I don't think he falls for that. I think if you tell Steven Rose to do something, he's cooler than you, and he just won't do it. I mean, he's just...
Okay, I can see that also, but...
I don't know. I might try that. So yeah, if you go out to, so we'll see if that gets added, but that would be handy. And again, it's two things I really like: PowerShell, OneDrive. I would like them to be able to get along better.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's, I think Jeff was the one that tweeted some point over the holiday, right? The whole idea that you should just be using PowerShell on a regular basis, right? Go touch it, go read the documentation, just keep your mind in that PowerShell type of framework, because it's just such an important skill set. And, those muscles, just like the muscles that when I played in that basketball tournament yesterday that I haven't used in a year, they get a little old and weak pretty fast.
Yeah. I use PowerShell for everything. It is my go-to answer for everything. It's not always the right answer, but it's always the thing that I start with and will follow through with. And so I guess I'll talk a little bit about the thing that I'm working on now, and I've got working, I just need to tweak in the package, is how to do some JPEG manipulation with PowerShell.
Okay.
So this was something that Jeff and I talked about years ago. I'm legitimately guessing like a year or two ago. One of the things was how to add text to a JPEG. So do you have any Chromecast devices?
I do not.
Okay, so one of the things that the Chromecast device can do is you can have it be a news aggregator, and so it will pull out RSS feeds from news organizations, and if the article has a picture, it will show the picture, and then it will give like the headline of the article at the bottom of the picture.
Yep.
I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. And so I thought, I bet I could do something like that with PowerShell, because I can obviously read RSS feeds. I can pull the URL for the picture out. I can pull the text for the title out. I wonder how tough it would be to pull the image out, pull the text out, splat the text on the image, and then have it show, because I've got some other things that aren't Chromecast that do similar things. And so Jeff helped me with that a while back. I never got it exactly the way that I wanted because I got busy with something else. So there was kind of that lingering up there. And then the other thing was, I have a bunch of pictures, tens of thousands of pictures in OneDrive that I've taken with my digital camera and things like that. But every picture that ends up on my phone, any way it comes in, gets synced to OneDrive. So if I take the picture with the camera app, it's, file name is 2019-0102, and then the time, everything sorts great by name. But if it's something that somebody sends me in a text, or if I download it from Facebook, then it's got any number of different names and they don't show up correctly once they show up on my PC. So I'm like, there should be a way to like pull the EXIF data, the date taken out, and then rename the file so that they all sort right. I should use PowerShell for that. Now, there are a number of programs that will do exactly the thing that I want to do for free, load it up, but I'm like, no, this should be a PowerShell thing. So that was what I worked on in the last week, was figuring out how to open up JPEG files, pull data about the the EXIF information, height, width, all that kind of stuff out, and then do things in PowerShell with it. Rename files, sort files, add text files, stuff like that. So kind of building a bunch of those different functions.
Is it, and it's going? I mean, you feel like it's something at the end you'll be like done with and like, I did this?
Yeah, I mean, I've got it all. I've got all of those things working. I can do all of those things. It's just a matter of how to package up the function to do the thing that I want. But I have all the pieces. I just need to figure it out. Like for the renaming thing, is I'm kind of working through the logic. I would grab an image. I would look to see if there was an EXIF date created tag. So like if you took it with a digital camera, if there wasn't, then I would look like at the date created and date modified the file system tag, take the earlier of the two, and then use that, so it's just kind of those things. In the chat room, Mark Chrisman is asking if the EXIF data is as much of a pain in the butt to get to as the MP3 tag data. Much less. It doesn't need any external DLLs. It's like 2 lines to get some stuff. Yeah, not tough.
Well, one of the things. Sorry, do we have breaking news in the chat room?
Chris Webb would like to think we do.
Yeah, Chris, is that something you'd like to share? We will share your breaking news if you would, but we'll give you a second there. But so I think the next thing that you should do is, part of Azure is the cognitive services, and so then the cognitive services is the whole Vision API, right? So I think you should go that next mile, right? Can you then send your image off to the cognitive services and get some metadata tags back about the image, right? So who's in it or what's in it, that type of stuff. Yep. Or the thing that I was really interested there that I haven't messed with is one of the things the Vision API can do is resize images. So send the image over there and then get back, the non-47 meg version of the file. So there's some cool stuff there. I think if you get this kind of wrapped up and you want to kind of keep playing with the images in PowerShell, I think plugging that into your mix might be a little fun.
Yeah, I think resizing I can already do in PowerShell. In my head, I can think of how that would, because when you do the things that I'm doing, you pull the image in and then you create a new image and save the image out. And so right now I'm pulling the image in and source image width and height is equal to X. So new image height and width is equal to X and Y, and then do whatever I'm doing with it and save it out. So now I would just say it's equal to X divided by 2, Y divided by 2, something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, simple stuff. The cognitive API stuff is interesting. And OneDrive, the clients and all that do a bunch of those things. And it has been amazing to me the things that I have found. Like I was trying to find a picture of my car once, and so I just went into OneDrive and did a search for car, and a bunch of my images that had cars in them had already been tagged. Building, so looking in and seeing all those different tags has been very interesting. Yeah.
So it looks like Chris would like to share his breaking news. Apparently, Chris Webb just received notification that he will be a Microsoft MVP. So, yay, kudos to Chris. See, listening in our chat room pays off, right? We said that one of our listeners would be awarded MVP. I mean, Chris has done nothing other than listen to this podcast, and they got him MVP status. So, Chris, congrats for winning the award from us this year.
Yes, congrats. And yes, I think it only seems fair for us to take all the credit, because I think it was because of us.
Yeah. So I guess now I'm curious as to what MVP, right? Because the titles, like the categorization these days, are so weird. I'm looking. I don't want to see what Chris's categorization is.
Yeah, I think I'm Office Servers and Services now. You're something else.
I am, but I think I'm both. I don't know.
You might be both. Yep.
They really get confused by the whole both thing. Like they don't know how to deal with it. So I don't know. All right. So Chris is Office Apps and Services.
So I think that's the same. And thanks for Brett for putting in the show title options.
Yes. Yeah. And it looks like Chris is. It looks like Teams is kind of his is the way that it was his angle in, if you will, other than being part of our Slack channel. Wait, does that work?
Really?
I might get him kicked out. He probably shouldn't talk about that.
Depends on who you talk to.
All right.
So the PowerShell stuff. Yeah. Again, once I have it packaged in a way that makes sense, I'll share some of that stuff out. But it's been fun, and it's just been one of those things. I've got these pictures in OneDrive that have gotten synced in from other things, and they show up in weird places. And I'm like, man, I wish there was a way. I just immediately jumped to PowerShell. I'm like, that's the way to do this. And
yep. And I go to Power Apps. I'm like, why would I do something anywhere other than Power Apps?
Yeah, exactly.
My kid's like, yeah, my Fortnite game's not working. I'm like, well, I'm going to Power App to fix that real quick.
Yeah, I'm gonna write a Power App that reboots the router and.
Complete tangent though. So yesterday he came to us, after playing a Switch for like 17 or 18 straight hours, it had locked up. Right, so it wasn't dead, but it was, just a black screen of death type of thing. And he's all, I was like, well, fix it. He's like, well, I tried, whatever, and it wasn't responding. I was like, all right, well, go to the internet and search for hard reset Nintendo Switch. And then he leaves, he comes back 5 minutes later, it's still broke. I was like, did you try it? No. I was like, go. So eventually, he went to his computer, he typed in hard reset Nintendo Switch, he read the documentation, and did a hard reset and was able to play his game again. So I was really excited, right? I've done this a couple times with him now, is forced him to go search the internet to solve his technical problem instead of me just doing it.
Yeah, Rob Foster posted something on Facebook today about I'm a programmer, I don't teach my kids to program, and you shouldn't either. It's a very provocative clickbait sort of headline, which I hate, loathe. But the idea behind the article was you shouldn't teach kids programming, you should teach them processes. You should teach them that. He's like, because programming is about structure, but you need to understand what happens when things break. How do you isolate problems? How do you break things down in consumable chunks? And that has nothing to do with computers. That's life. And so those are the kind of things, because then once you get that figured out, then dropping a computer language on top of it that's the easy part. And I agree with that, but that's that kind of thing right there. I do the same thing with my kids. If something doesn't work, my daughter, one of the lights in her room wouldn't work, and I'm like, all right, let's break this down. What's the process? How that makes the light work? Let's isolate the pieces. Is the bulb bad? Is the breaker bad? Is the switch off? Is the lamp broken? So I think those are the ways to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And Brody used to have to use an encyclopedia. I don't even know if kids know what those are anymore.
So when we moved 2.5 years ago, this house has some built-in bookshelves, and somehow I had a set of encyclopedias from when I was in high school. So I have encyclopedias from like 30 years ago on our bookshelf, and my kids are like, they think this is great. It's this big, long stack of very stately-looking books, and they love pulling it out and looking at the pictures. And
yeah. We bought a bunch. If you go to, I think it's Half Price Books, right? That's the place that buys your old books.
Yeah.
They have books that they sell by the yard.
That's awesome.
And so we did. We bought like a yard of books, and they're just, decorative old Reader Digest and those, fancy leather covers. And, we used those in one of the rooms that had some shelves very similar to that. And, it was like $12 or something. So, yeah, if you want to decorate with books, not read books, but decorate with books, books by the yard are an option. I'm pretty sure it's Half Price Books.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Yeah, that's very funny. That's pretty good. So, yeah, I'll keep you all updated on the PowerShell and the picture thing.
All right. Well, completely random, but I don't know if you remember a few shows ago, I was complaining about the whole, I had gotten Office on my Surface, right, Office 365, the clients, right, to behave differently. I got them on that latest update, and there were some really cool features there that I was enjoying. Remember any of that? No? Probably not.
I do, absolutely.
But so then I got really frustrated because I wanted to talk about on the show here how to do it on my PC, and so I opened up my PC. I couldn't do it. That's when I realized that my PC had Office 2016 instead of Office 365. So I got my PC updated to Office 365, and then they still weren't there, so I got all angry, shook, my fist at the internet.
Cursed at the heavens.
Yeah. And so it turns out that if you go into www.office.com, you log in with your Office 365 credentials and install Office 365 from there. It was installing the Office 32-bit version on the semi-annual update cadence.
Okay.
So, which Microsoft is rolling out right now. They're going to change that to default to the 64-bit version. Duh. So they're finally going to fix that. But it'll still be the semi-annual update cadence. So in order to change the cadence, you can either do it at install time. You can say, hey, I want to be on the monthly updates. Or after lots and lots and lots of binging, I figured out that there's a very prescriptive process to change it. Like, there's not just a button somewhere to say, hey, I want monthly updates instead of semi-annual. Like, I had to go in and run some command line stuff to get it to flip over and then do an update, and then it would switch to monthly. But now that I've switched to the monthly cadence and then the updates ran for like 12 hours, I finally have all the cool new features that I was really looking forward to having. So the whole, have it automatically mark things as read when I delete them, and don't show me meeting reminders for meetings I've already missed. So I just want to kind of throw that out there as we continue to discuss this whole concept that Office 365 is not Office 2016, and there's all these things you have to kind of do.
Yeah, which I believe you, still wrapping my head around. And I have clients on both so that I can keep them, see the contrasts, but I need to check now to see which flight I'm on. Because I've got a couple of those things set and they're not working. I need to go through and get everything straightened out, get it all in the same version, then figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, so if you look down the show notes, I put the blog post that walks you through the command line stuff to make the change. Because I tried. Microsoft has an article that talks about some registry changes. They don't work. Typical, right? And a lot of the documentation out there is around the Office 365 personal clients versus the Office 365 business clients. So that made it even more frustrating. So in the show notes is the link to the article that will actually change it for those of us that have, business versions.
Yeah, and I have trouble with that. So I have a business version that I own, my own tenant. And then I have a business account with my work tenant with Simpraxis. And I don't remember if I'm running Office 365 or Office 2016 on this box, but getting those accounts synced up and that the client has just been horrendously painful. And inside of the app, like inside of Word and Excel, you can say which account to use, but that's not the Office 365 account per se. It's the Office, it's an account inside of Word that has accounts for different Office 365 tenants. It is not, so like I use OneNote for everything, for personal and for the podcast and for work. The OneNote client will not sync my work stuff. It loses that. I have to go in and log in periodically to my Simpraxis account for my Simpraxis OneNotes to sync, things like that. If I click a link in Chrome and it opens up Word and I don't already have Word open using my Simpraxis account, then I won't be able to edit those documents. I mean, it's just all kinds of weird. So I need to maybe flush all my Office clients and start from scratch.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? Is we are not the case they designed for, right? Us and our 17 different accounts. I think I'm up to like 25 now. I had a few more over the holidays. But yeah, they don't. We're not the use case, so yeah, we definitely hit some rough patches. But those of you that are really just using one Office 365 account, the experience is just awesome. So.
Yeah, it's gotten really good. Yeah. So I'll have to check that out. I'm going to have to get with all my machines, just get a good inventory of what versions I'm running where, flush it all, and get it all. But that's good, and that is not intuitive. I would have argued with you before you talked about this that Office 365 and Office 2016 were different. I would have no, it's just a labeling thing. It's just splash screen, shut up. But it is absolutely different functionality.
Yeah, I mean, and it's radically different at this point. So when I switch to the monthly update, like all the icons and Word and Outlook and all that are completely different. I mean, it is night and day when you get on that monthly ring, and I like it. Don't get me wrong, right? I mean, I wanted that. I went looking for it, but I can see where some people would be like, "What in the world just happened to me? Why does Outlook, the new email icon that has been the same for like 22 years is now different?" And you're like,
"Oh, I like that icon." Big fan of Outlook. Yeah. So yeah, I will. But by next podcast, I will have updated a couple of these and made that happen.
Yeah. Well,
talk. Oh, go ahead. Do you have more?
I was going to jump to the next.
I'm going to say yes. But speaking of updates, if you're on the early ring for Windows, and Windows 10, not Windows Server, they added a new feature a couple of weeks ago, the Windows Sandbox.
I don't know what this is.
So it's nothing for your cats, so that's good because that would not be good. But it is kind of the next evolution of virtual machines and containers and all of that. It is a functionality inside of Windows where you can fire up the sandbox, and it will create an instance of Windows inside of Windows where you can do things that you don't want to be persistent. And then when you close that sandbox instance, all of the things go away. So any websites you went to, that history's gone. Any applications you run, any changes they make to the registry, all gone. Things like that.
So this is just taking adult website mode into a new whole new level.
I don't know. Well, so I think I think of it as a security thing, playing with files and stuff like that. So I was really intrigued by it, not because I do a lot of internet banking or security stuff, but just the whole, Russian doll thing, all of that. But I can't get it to work. So to get it, it's a Windows feature, which is another thing. So if you're in Windows 10 and you go to the start menu, you type feature, it takes you to the page that lets you install Windows features. Okay. This is not that. You have to go to the start and you have to go to the old style control panel and go to Programs and Features and add optional Windows features there. So it's not a Windows feature, it's the other Windows feature. Gah. Where that's super tricky is you will only see it in the second one if you're on one of the, the new builds. So not the regular stable build, but the give me the new flight thing. So it's very easy to talk yourself into thinking that you don't have the right build when you do, because you went to the Windows feature and it wasn't there, but you didn't go to the other Windows feature where it is. Very confusing, but I got it all figured out. So went to the features, went to the other features, enabled it. It's called Windows Sandbox, reboot. And then the machine came back up and I typed Sandbox in the start menu. And sure enough, there it is, desktop application, Windows Sandbox. Since it's creating a new instance of Windows and essentially a new container, new machine, it asked me for the UAC thing. I hit yes. I was waiting to see like a desktop inside of a desktop. Nothing happened. I hit OK to the UAC prompt. I went right back to the desktop and there was nothing there. So I don't know if I'm using it wrong or what, but I'm curious just what that, how full, because the idea behind this was they said it's got a very small footprint, it doesn't take a lot of RAM, and those kind of things. So I'm just curious what it's like, but I can't get the dumb thing to work.
Or maybe, was it just working, right? So was the idea that now you could just do something on your PC and then just turn it off, and when you turn it off, all that stuff would go away?
Well, that's a good question, because I went and I did the thing that, that if your son would have come to you and you're like, did you Google it? So I did, and all of the blog posts that I can find about it are how to turn it on. Zero of them are how to actually use it. So all of the blog posts that I went to, including the one that I've linked in the notes here, are all about here's how you turn it on. Okay, now go use the sandbox, but I haven't seen any screenshots of the thing even working, so I might have it working, I don't know.
So no one has figured it out, right? I mean, that's really what it boils down to, is that it just...
maybe. I guess I just assumed that it was so easy that nobody's like, and here's how you write with a pencil. I mean, it just seemed like, it's so obvious for everybody but me. But I will, after the show today, I will try it again. Because it's there. I mean, I can see it. But I'm just curious what the environment looks like.
I will wait for your full report. I will not be trying to install the Windows Sandbox.
Yeah, and I guess to circle it back through, I'm writing some PowerShell for a customer, and their users will be like business users, not IT folks or anything, and I can't assume that they will have anything like the PNP PowerShell or anything like that installed. So I've been using VMs that have none of my PowerShell stuff installed to make sure that the process of telling them how to use it and install stuff is correct. So part of me is wondering what PowerShell looks like in the sandbox to see if I can just test it there.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Speaking of new machines, there's an addition to the family, right?
Yes. I purchased myself a Surface Laptop 2 over the holiday.
Very sexy, very sexy.
I know. Santa Claus didn't bring me nothing, so I had to go buy my own present.
And how do you feel about it?
So far, I am a pretty big fan. It's I've had every Surface, so I had all the Surfaces through Surface 4, and so the last one I had was a Surface Pro 4, and so then this is my first venture into the laptop or book feed, if you will. And I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, it's nice, I guess, because I have had the Surface laptop or the Surface Pros for so long, and the flimsy little keyboard, and they were never very friendly for working in your actual lap. Right. They were fine for working on a table or whatever. I mean, I've been happy with it for a long time. But so that I'm back to able to actually type in my lap, which I think was kind of a nice feature of the laptop.
Yeah, and that's so I know you went with the Surface things, Surface Pros, a lot harder core than I did. Mm-hmm. And that was exactly why I didn't do it, because I think I use my laptop in my lap a lot more. And that's why I ended up getting the convertible. So there's laptops so that I can do laptop-y stuff, but then if I want to do tablet-y stuff, I can fold it under and do tablet-y stuff. So I get that.
Yeah. So this one does have a touch screen, but it doesn't come apart or flip over in any way, right? So it only goes back maybe 20 degrees past, so, to 110 degrees or so, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Maybe 130. I don't know. But it is, for me, so I'm using a Bluetooth mouse. I've had one of those Bluetooth Microsoft Arc mice forever. It had Windows Hello, which was a big thing for me. I'm a big fan of Hello.
I would like that, though I don't think I could use it, because I think, so all of my machines here at home are on a domain, and I think to use Windows Hello with a domain, you need an ADFS server and a bunch of stuff that I don't want to deal with.
No, I do not have those issues. Other than that, I mean, I saw people whining about, because it just has a USB 3 or USB 3 port and a display port and then a headphone jack. There is no USB-C, which made a bunch of people angry. But once again, I don't need USB-C in my life, so I did not care one bit about that.
I can tell you, so when you got that, I went and looked it up. The fact that it was not USB-C and the fact that it was DisplayPort instead of HDMI mostly immediately ruled it out for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Super fast, right? I got 16 gigs, 512 hard drive. And that was my minimum. It's an i8 processor of some sort. I don't know. It's faster than I need to make power apps for people and respond to emails. So.
But we load a lot of stuff in those web browsers. We put a lot of
Oh yeah, so there's definitely a reason I got 16 gigs. I was not willing to entertain the much cheaper 8 gig model.
Nah.
And the other thing I think is really nice about it, and this is going to sound weird, but it's a lot like a MacBook Air, right? It's super light. It's very thin. It doesn't have the bulky hinge. So it's a lot like, it has a lot of the same feels as those Macs without the terrible OS. So I'm like, I kind of liked it. We stole some of the design principles for them. We don't have but without that dumb OS. So pretty cool.
Yeah, I've been eyeballing a new machine. You got me excited about one when you asked about this last week, and I don't know. In the chat room, Brody's talking about the Yoga C930. I kind of looked at that one a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough, and I guess the other thing with the Surface laptop, right? It is a little pricey. It's on the high end for what you get.
Yeah.
They were on sale in the store, though. It was really weird, right? So I kind of looked around. I was like, I want one of these. They're all the same price everywhere. So I was like, well, my local Best Buy didn't have the 16 gigs in stock. So I was like, I'm going to go to the Microsoft store and I'm going to get this thing. And when I walked in the door, they're like, $300 off. And I'm like, you should advertise this. I would have come sooner. But yeah, so we ended up buying myself one. We have one for little Sparky as well. We have not opened hers yet. We're going to kind of make sure that
Gotcha.
a few days in I don't hate this one. But
yeah.
But yeah, and it is an SSD hard drive also. Daniel asked in the chat room about that. So.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that seems like a silly question on the surface. All these devices have solid state storage now. Like, that's not an issue. There's no spinning platters and all that anymore. But that doesn't always mean fast. So there's two different styles of drives, SSDs, and I think MMC is the other one. One of them is faster than the other. And so asking that question is a valid question because they don't all have that.
Yeah, well, and I mean, in looking around, right, some of the low-cost options were like, oh, I really like the price. One of the things you find out is you're like, oh, it has a spinning hard drive still. No way in hell I would buy that.
Oh, God, good. No, I can't even imagine that being for storage. Maybe like I've got a NAS device that has a bunch of spinning drives in it, but but for a device that I interact with and have to watch boot and shut down, no, I'd never have a spinning drive.
Yeah. So far so good. Screen's great. It is a touch screen also, but I don't really touch the screen that much. So
I do from time to time. Depends on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I got to figure out, I've still got my Surface Pro or my Surface Pro 4, and a couple people have asked about buying it. I don't know if I want to ship it out of here. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet either. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate to get rid of those things. Never know when you're going to need it.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a tablet fight, right? One day, and you've got like 74. I mean, I could never compete. So.
I could just start chucking them at you, and you would never be able to. It'd be like an Elf, the snowball fight.
I was thinking I had Ninja Gaiden Shuriken. Or no, that's the other one, but
yeah, Street Fighter.
Yeah.
So anyway. You got let's jump down to G because you got something else over the holiday that I think this story is kind of funny.
Yes. So my wife, because she had no idea what to buy me other than the socks and underwear, which I did get brand new of.
Yes.
She bought me a Wemo Mini Smart Plug.
Oh, and I've got a ton of those laying around. I should have pulled one out so I could show you guys.
Yeah. And she did not buy it because I'd asked for one or anything. I think she literally just walked to the store. She's like, "Oh, that's $30. That'll make my husband happy." And but yeah, so they really advertise on how easy they are to set up and how great of little devices they are.
And that was my experience when I bought mine like 3 years ago. Yeah.
So after about 5 days, no, 6 days, 5 or 6 days, and roughly 4 hours, I finally got my easy to set up device up and working, and so now I have a Wemo here in my office. So before you guys start, right, we'll cut Todd off. He wants to tell you how dumb I am that I couldn't figure out how to set this thing up. I fought with it for 3 or 4 days. I gave up. I went out to Twitter and made fun of them. Their handy-dandy social media people immediately opened me a ticket and had their level 2 support people call me. They were not having me badmouth their product online.
Which, yeah.
And so after the guy called, it only took 57 minutes for the level 2 technician to get this thing to work in my house.
The trained professional.
So I no longer take it. I no longer feel dumb that I could not get it working in the 3+ hours I had spent by myself.
No, keep feeling dumb. That's a good day.
Yeah. So it looks like when it was all said and done, what it boiled down to was the so we put in those access points, right? Those Ubiquity, Unify, AP, long range, bloody that made my wireless network so much better around here. Well, they share, right, the 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz network are on the same SSID.
Yep.
And it looks like the Wemo just couldn't imagine that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We ended up downgrading my access point to 2.4 gigahertz and got it connected. I've bumped my access point back to 5 gigahertz, and now it works. But it, I don't know. It's only worked for a few days, so I don't know if it's going to survive a reboot or some massive moment in time. But as of right now, it works. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, and so I had a similar situation now that we've talked about, because you and I talked about this before the show. I had a similar situation about this a while back. Like Stacy's saying in the chat room, all these cheap little devices are all 2.4 gigahertz. They don't need a lot of bandwidth, which is what 5 gig gives things. The other thing is 2.4 gigahertz has a better range than 5 does.
Right.
And so, because I had the same problem a while back with one of my cameras, and it could see my network, I could do the thing, I could attach, and then it wouldn't work. And I did some reading, and it has something to do with how the access point advertises itself. Like it advertises itself over 2.4, and then stand on the corner with the sign. But then once a device attaches and make sure that the passphrase and all that is correct, the AP assumes that the device is smart enough to connect to 5 gig or 2 gig, whatever it can do, and figure all that out. And some devices just don't do that very well. And so if there's 5 there, it tries to connect to 5U, and if it can't connect to 5, and then doesn't know how to fall back to 2.4, and that was part of the problem. And so the thing that you mentioned also is some folks would have this problem if they had 2.4 shut off. Because whatever the beacon is, the advertising thing, everything can see it. But then if something only does 2.4 and your APs only do 5, then they can't get on.
Yeah, sounds a lot like what happened to me, and I think it really what part of my frustration was. So I went and found their whole troubleshooting documentation, which makes no reference to this problem.
Why would it?
But so their first suggestion is when you're connecting, add an extra character to your Wi-Fi password. That was troubleshooting step 1. Turning off the cellular data and the Bluetooth on my phone was apparently one of their right. Their troubleshooting I tried to go and do this, and their troubleshooting content was just made me think, God, you guys, if this is true, you guys are idiots. You need to start over. You're failing as a company if adding an extra character to the Wi-Fi password is literally one of the troubleshooting steps. And it is.
Yeah, there's a bug somewhere where their process truncates the last character of whatever you type in, and I was just so sad for them. So, but I mean, kudos to them. They fixed it. It's working. I'm using it, but. Yeah, so let's talk about after you invest the $30 in the 5 hours of your life. What can you use it for? What do you do?
So what I'm currently using it for, which I think is very similar to one of your use cases, is I have a heater down here in my basement. I don't know if you guys know, but those of us who live in places like Iowa and Ohio, our basements get a little cold in the winter.
A little chilly, yep.
And in the summer, to be honest.
Yeah.
But so now I have it so that automatically at 8:30 a.m. every morning, it turns on the heater in my office. and then it'll turn it off at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's just a kind of a native built-in. That literally took 15 seconds to turn on and enable.
Yeah.
So that's my first foray, right? I didn't have a plan for them. Like I said, my wife, knowing that it was a cheap date, just said, here's a $30 device. You got something for Christmas. Shut up.
Yep.
But that's what I'm doing with it. What are you? I know you're doing a lot more advanced type of stuff.
I wouldn't call it advanced, but I've had a bunch of these things for a few years. So I have one that controls my outside Christmas lights. And so it schedules those on and off for me, so I never have to worry about remembering to turn on the Christmas lights. Have one for the Christmas tree as well. So it turns the Christmas tree on at 7:30 in the morning, shuts it off at 10:30 at night, whatever. I have a gas heater in my garage. So it runs on gas, but obviously it needs electronics to do all the stuff. So I have one of these in line with that. And there's a thermostat for the gas heater, but honestly, I don't care if my garage gets cold at night because there's nobody there. It doesn't matter. It's not going to get below freezing or anything like that. And so I've got one of those in line that says, supply power to the heater at 7:30 in the morning, shut it off at 10:30 at night. And then once there's power, then if it's, the thermostat takes over, and then if it's below 50, it turns it on, whatever. So that when my wife leaves for work in the morning, the garage is warm, her car's somewhat warm. So I've got that. I had this light that's off to the side when I was still using it before I was using the window. I would have it turn on 10 minutes before the podcast started and shut off so that I wouldn't have to forget about that. But then one of the other cool things about it is these Wemo things, they integrate with Amazon's device. I will try very hard not to say her name so that if anybody's listening, but I can do all that stuff now. So I can say, hey, Alexa, turn on the Christmas tree. And it'll just turn on, or she just caught it. Or I can say, she shall not be named, turn off the Christmas lights, and it will just do all that because it takes the Wemo app on your phone, tries to figure out the name that you give the thing, and then it pulls it into a she who shall not be named. So there's a bunch of cool stuff there.
Nice.
Oh, and one other one that I've also tied that into my garage. So my garage door uses the Chamberlain MyQ stuff, and that's got an if this then that hook. So I've got one of those set up that when my garage door opens, one of those Wemo switches flashes a light in my office so I can see when someone comes home, because I'm in the basement on the far opposite corner of the house than the garage. Like when my kids come home from school or something like that, a light in my office flashes through that Wemo so that I can know that someone's here.
Yeah, and then if you just integrate that into the Windows sandbox to turn off things as well, right? I mean, you can just have this whole process.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
The garage goes up, Todd's computer goes down.
Just shuts off all my monitors. Yeah, so Mark in the chat room, it works great. You can either schedule it or use she who shall not be named. So the Christmas tree thing, I've been doing that for years, and I had a different version before the Wemo ones that did that. And of course it was one of those things that I didn't tell anybody. And then I'm like, that would be cool. If she who shall not be named, turn on the Christmas tree. Poof, the lights light up, and my kids are like, oh my God. That's all right.
Let me add that to the daddy issue files.
So another cool thing is, so you have like the $30 one. If you have any devices like space heaters or something like that, and you're curious what they cost you, Wemo also has the same thing, but with an energy monitor built in. So on the phone app, you can put in how much your electricity costs you, and it'll tell you exactly how much it's used and when it's used and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but if I did that, I'd probably stop using my heater, and I'd be cold. So.
Yeah, and that one's called the Insight smart plug, I think. Yeah. But I've got a couple of those too.
Well, then they've got, I kind of poked around before I got completely angry at them, like the light switches and things like that. There's a few of those that I could definitely see would, so like the hallway light that the kids use, we have to leave that on until they fall asleep at night, Yep. Well, if they're playing or making too much noise, we turn it off as punishment to make them quiet down. But unfortunately, I have to get up off my couch, put my wine down, and walk all the way to the light switch. So buying a $30 light switch that I can just hit an app and turn it off seems.
Yeah, and for you to really, really get you excited about this, I'm sure all these endpoints are accessible, so you could write a Power App and a Flow to do all those things. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested in how that's going to work, because we talked about it before the show, but I didn't mention here. They have the ability to do remote access, which is manage them from outside of your home.
Yeah.
But you have to, punch a bunch of firewall ports, and I don't know. it just didn't feel good. But once again, I was in a bad space. I was really upset with the device anyway. So I undid all the firewall ports that I opened. But I'm assuming I have to have all those to start doing IFTT stuff or flow and Power App stuff. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have all those ports open. I never tried to use the app outside my house. But I do know that I don't know. I'll have to. I don't think I've needed all that. So we'll have to play with that.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting down. We've been chatting too much. Let's hit the promotion, because we've got a couple of new things to talk about.
Yeah. Well, so Power Apps and Flow training. Don't forget, tomorrow is the beginning user class. So I'm certain that you will never know about this. But and then next week, the 7th through the 10th, we are running a proper 4-day class, all about helping people who build Power Apps actually figure out what the heck it is they're doing. So pretty excited about that one. I enjoy teaching.
Yeah. And we've got SP TechCon next month, February 10th through the 13th. SPTechCon.com. That's in Austin. You and I are doing a bunch of things. We're doing a day-long Power Apps and Flow thing and sessions here and there. I forget all those things, but go to SPTechCon.com and register for that if you haven't already, and then come hang out with us in Austin.
Yeah, Austin's always a good time. So.
Yep. And then since you and I chatted last, and since I've talked to the fine folks in the podcast last, I agreed I'll be doing a talk on March 11th for the Kansas City user group. And this is Office 365, so this is like a Monday at lunch. And I'm going to do an hour-long talk on Office 365 groups and just what they are and how to use them and how to set them up and all that kind of stuff.
That sounds very helpful. Sounds very painful for you to have to talk about, but it sounds very helpful.
It's not as bad as I'm with you. Like, groups irritated me for a while, and I hated them and thought they were dumb, and then started playing with them and researching them, and it's like that was one of the topics that I pitched. She didn't come to me and say, "Will you talk about groups?" I'm like, I suppose. I'm like, "Hey, here's like 5 things I could talk about." So yeah, that'll be fun, and that's in person. So I plan on driving down to Kansas City. Tesla put a new supercharger halfway between here and Kansas City, so I look forward to using that. Though I'll probably use it going down to the Chiefs game in a couple weeks. But so if you're going to be in the Kansas City area, March 11th, come join me down there.
Yep. Well, I think Eric Van Roy would like us to say we missed the Fox Valley SharePoint user group on January 16th, so that'll also be here in a few days. So.
Are you doing that one, or am I doing that one? I'm doing that one. Okay. Well, thanks for the reminder, Eric.
Oh. I had no idea what you were talking about, so I'm glad you remember you're doing it.
Yes, I've got it in my calendar and everything. Yeah, so that's in a couple of weeks. Excellent. Thanks for the reminder, Eric.
Yeah.
I'll put that in the notes.
So North American Collaboration Summit, right? That's in good old Branson, Missouri. That will be March 14th and the 15th. So I don't know. I'm doing a day-long session on Power Apps and Flow. You should sign up, come learn that on the cheap. Yeah. And then I'm doing another Power Appsy session. You're doing. They finally let you in, right? You paid enough money. They're gonna let you speak too.
I can't remember. I need to talk to Mark about that, and I might not have a place to sleep. I don't think I've done anything on that. I need to. But yeah, I'll be down there. I'll probably crash your deal, and then I think I'm doing a session, though I forget on what. So. Yep. And then, so that we talked about this last week. I think it was when we first talked about this. On Friday, March 29th, you're going to be in Omaha, Nebraska, talking about Power Apps all day long again, right?
Yes. I am looking forward to that. I need to, I still don't have all that. So I'm definitely doing it, but I don't have it like firmed up, like wins and wheres and all that. And definitely need to get that story together. But I mean, it's like 2.5 months away. No big deal.
So I think the plan is going to be that you're going to fly to Des Moines on Thursday the 28th, and then you and I are going to road trip to Omaha that night. It'll be epic. It'll be like the Blues Brothers, and do that thing on Friday, because then Saturday is SharePoint Saturday in Omaha, and you're going to do that too, right?
Oh, that's right. They said, who's the best person we could get for a keynote? And it turns out that Warren Buffett said no. So next up on the list of billionaires was, well, not me, but
No.
but yeah. So I am going to be doing that for them. Yep.
So you'll be doing the keynote, right?
I will be doing the keynote. Is the last thing that was promised. I'll probably get there and they'll be like, oh yeah, we forgot about that. But,
the guy from Casey's that delivered the breakfast pizzas, he wants to do the keynote instead. So everybody likes him better. He brought breakfast pizzas. So.
Yeah. Well, I thought I was getting barbecue in Kansas City, right? Shouldn't I be getting some barbecue out there?
We're talking about Omaha now, but yes, you can get. Yeah, Omaha not known for its barbecue.
My life is hard, Todd. My life is hard.
So come join us, and I'll be speaking there too. Come join us if you're going to be in Omaha. You can go to SharePoint Saturday Omaha, and then I think we get April off for a while, and then May SharePoint conference.
SharePoint conference. Who isn't excited about that, right? Go to Vegas, you get to party like it's 1999 again. I don't know about you, but I've seen some debauchery at these SharePoint conferences. People having a good time.
I have no idea what you're speaking of. I've said too much already.
There you go. So good show though. You know, if you want to go see some SharePoint stuff, me and this other guy will be doing an all-day session on SharePoint administration, which will be very interesting, right? Lots of fun things to cover and do, but you know,
always new stuff, yeah.
And if you sign up, right, don't forget, if you sign up, you can use the code YOUNG, Y-O-U-N-G, and save $50. So make sure that you do that.
Yeah, that's all good stuff. And just, you know, I do more SharePoint these days than Shane does, but it's still something, it's still on the periphery there. It's still stuff we do. And so it's stuff we still love to talk about.
Yeah. Well,
Dan Christian apparently is going to be there as well, and he would like us to mention that you should go to his session as well. I can neither confirm nor deny promoting Dan Christian's session.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have gone long again once again. Thanks to everybody in the chat room for helping Shane fix his audio problems. I don't know what his problem is, why he can't just be consistent with this, but there it is.
I will try better in 2020.
Got a whole year to get. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I forgot. Birthday thing. LoriGowan.com/TKCharity. Massive amounts have been donated already this year. I can't even begin to imagine that was, so we've got a bunch of money. The BS. LoriGowan.com/TKCharity. I'm going to put that in the notes to say it earlier next week because we've lost everybody already.
You know, and I gave $20 to charity yesterday, and I was like, oh.
Todd's going to take all the credit for this. Oh my God.
It was really sad.
Yep. So thanks to Lori for setting that up. I appreciate that. All right, everybody, you have a good week. Chat room will be around for a couple of minutes, but we will see you guys all next week.
Peace.
Bye. 106 is the end. All right. I left my car at the Des Moines airport while we were in Jamaica. Lost 14 miles a day.
The joys of the cold.
Yeah, between the cold and then Teslafy keeping everything lit up as much as it could.
Oh, yeah. You definitely abused it.
Yep. 14 miles a day vampire drain. That's okay. Worth it.
Can't believe you got to go on vacation. I hate you.
I did some of that PowerShell stuff, and I did some customer stuff while I was there. So
I worked every single day for lots of hours over the holiday break.
Yep. Trying to think if there's anything else I need from you. I don't think there is.
All right, well, I'll go back to work.
Go get some work done.
I will. I'll talk to you when I talk to you. I guess I should hang up this connection. Chat room, you guys. Where is?
Bye, stream.
There we go. Let's see. All right.